That's how it goes with dogs, especially like the ones I've got. I've got a pit bull who sometimes can be the sweetest dog in the world, and sometimes he can be just it's like his goal in life is to make everything difficult for me. Um, I really should start doing these, saying I do it at 2 p.m. instead of 1:30 because that's a little bit more reachable time for me. Anyways, here, let me go ahead and post these up. Just see about the live stream, make sure everyone can see it. Let's see here. Here we go. All right. And so yeah, the talk today. The talk today is going to be about well, like most of my talks, like most of my conversation topics and things that I talk about, it comes from other conversations I had, and so let me just do a quick overview. Also gives people a chance to join before I get into the meat of the topic. Um, yeah, this came from a conversation that I had with someone I'm connected with on X named Lee. I met Lee through a space that Netta had. She has like three that she does, I think, maybe four. I don't know how she does that. She's just absolutely insane to be able to run that many spaces and all that stuff. But the one she was in was called Come Say Hi. I just happened to have my AirPods on me. I saw it was open. I just jumped in. We talked for a minute. Lee kind of had a talk right after me. Then when I posted the last live stream last week about accepting failure and how to accept failure, he kind of hit me up and we started talking for a really long time and had about a 3 hour conversation. Found out that we had a super lot in common. I mean, just a ton of stuff in common. And so that's kind of where this conversation comes from. It also comes from a lot of the experience I've had lately with people and the advice that I go giving them on spaces like the hunt, and even when I deal with them and have like direct interaction with them in person. One of the very common pieces of advice that I give on the hunt, especially for younger devs who are trying to set themselves apart, is to get involved in something. Many of the devs who ask for help, they've gone out and they've got a resume, and they've got a portfolio, and usually they've got at least a LinkedIn account. A lot of people on Hunt give really good advice about different things that they can tweak there. Some of these people have hit me up directly, and I've had direct conversations with them. Like I've said before, sometimes I feel like a lot of those things are things that could be improved. Just having a portfolio, for example, doesn't really bring you a lot of attention per se, especially when the portfolio is just like everyone else's portfolio. So one of the suggestions I try to make is to get involved in something that pushes your limits, because if it's just the same thing that everyone else is doing, it's like you're in a Where's Waldo puzzle, trying to find you amongst the group of thousands of other people. You're not really going to stand out. So, and I agree with the advice that I give. I do believe the advice that I give is proper, and I think it's good. But like I said, having conversations about that and being someone who's been on the other side of the interviewing side, actually talking to people and having a lot of experience really in doing that. The one thing I really was wanting to talk about today was that it needs to be more than just something you do. A really good example. Okay, I think examples and stories from my own personal experience really helps this out. So when I was a young dev, I wanted to get a job. I was still in college, and I wanted to get a job doing Java because Java was like all the rage. When I was in college, that's when Java first came out. So it was just starting to become something. You know, our professors, and this just goes to show how professors sometimes don't really know the market. Our professors were telling us that if you had Java, you were going to get out making $60,000 a year and just promise all kinds of money, for the knowledge you had and all this stuff. And so, I wanted to get out there and I wanted to do those things. And one of the things I did is I joined a Java users group. Now, I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing, but this kind of plays along the points of what I'm going to talk about today. You know, yeah, sure, I got involved in the Java user group and I went to every single meeting that they had and those kinds of things. And even when it came down to having to do my senior project, I was able to use my connections at the Java user group to have a group of people to do my senior project for, and they would back me up on that and help me out there. But in the end, just being a member of the Java users group, you know how many Java jobs that got me? This many. Why is that? That's because just being a member of the group didn't really bring anything because, uh, they, first of all, no one knew how big the group was. The group wasn't that big. And you don't have to say how big a group is. A lot of times the association itself is part of the draw for people. But, just being a member of the group really didn't bring me much. Why didn't it bring me much? Because all I put on my resume was member of Java users group. And what does that mean? Well, that just means that I, show up when, and they don't even know if I show up all the time or not. They just know that I've gone at least once or twice, and that I consider myself a member of this group. Well, that's great, but what does that really bring them as a potential employer? What does that give to them? Um, Unfortunately, not really a whole lot. Now, had I been a founding member of the Java users group, had I been, had I been able to tell them all of the things that I did as part of starting the group, how, I put together ideas that we all worked on together. If I'd have done that, now if that would have been what I had done, that might have gotten me a little bit more interest, because then that is something that I actually took action in, and that I actually have, you know, provable results about something I did. So that's kind of the point I'm trying to make. Just being a member of a group doesn't necessarily give you a whole lot. Yes, I'm not saying you shouldn't do it. I'm not saying you shouldn't go out there. I'm not saying you shouldn't join user groups, but I will say this much: joining a user group that's not in your local area really doesn't help you out a lot, because most of the time these user groups, the concept of them is connecting with people in your local area. You never know who might be working for a company that might need some work. You make a friend with enough people within that group. You might be one of the people they look at and say, hey, I know you're looking, you want some, I could put your resume in there and I can give you a good reference or whatever. So there are reasons to join those groups, but like I said, a lot of those type of groups are really more advantageous when you're going to try to look in a local area. But if you're trying to go a lot wider, those kind of things don't really play into it a lot, and aren't really, you can't really expect a lot of outcome from that, unless you actually have some kind of provable result that you were deeply involved in it, and you can actually talk about it. And that's where a lot of things come. A lot of times I've seen on resumes, and I'm going back to Lee here, me and him got talking about this. He had seen the same kind of thing as well. And a lot of times people will make claims, and I've seen it in the tech world. I've seen it in tech, in languages or technologies that people say they worked on. And when you investigate, they don't know it. It's just something nice they put on their resume. They didn't think anyone was going to ask. And I'll tell you one thing for sure: I'm the kind of person that every time I go through an entire resume, and every time I see something, especially something that doesn't seem to fit, like if there's someone coming fresh out of college, and this is their first job interview, or a very early one at least, and they've got some language, some really obscure language that I know they shouldn't have any kind of interaction with in any way, shape, or form. Guess what I'm asking? And guess what's going to happen if that person puts that on their resume and then uh, can't back it up with actual real talking about it? Well, to me, that says the person was lying. They were just trying to pad their resume. And this is something I've always said in to everyone in different spaces, and even the personal talks. Don't ever rely on your resume. Don't ever try to pad your resume, because good interviewers will dig into that. Good interviewers will ask about that, and honestly, I think most people probably would, because especially if you're trying to do something that makes you look impressive, they're going to want to know what you did about it. They're going to want to know, hey, how are you involved in that? You know, so one of the things I say quite regularly is you ought to go out and join an open source project, and but when I say that, I do say to actually make contributions to the library. So strictly joining an open source project by itself, in and of itself, once again, is not going to draw that kind of reaction from people. Yes, if you put it on there, it's something that'll probably draw their eye, but they're going to ask you about it. Hey, what did you do? If you can't answer the what did you do, what did you contribute, how did you contribute? If you can't answer that, if this is just a group you join strictly for the sake of putting it on your resume, they're going to find out. So, it comes back to that. I realize that sometimes maybe you want to do things and you want to put these things in your resume. Make sure if you're going to do them, that you're going to commit the time to actually do them. Make sure you have something to talk about. Make sure you don't put things out there and say things that then when further investigation comes down, the truth is you really didn't do that. You just were a member of that. You just were there while that was happening, but you yourself really didn't make any of the progress. You yourself didn't actually contribute to anything. You just wanted to put your name down so that you can say, I'm a part of this. Most people, I think, will find out if you try to do that. So just my purpose here is just to try to teach and try to show you ways that you can, you know, bolster yourself. I do think contributing to an open source project is probably one of the best things you can do. There's a lot of open source projects out there, a lot of them that need help. But make sure if you're going to sign up to them, make sure that you're going to actually contribute. Make sure you're actually going to be there. Make sure you're actually going to do something. Just, you know, do what you say you're going to do, and then that will help. Do what you're saying you're going to do, and the people who are running that project might be willing to back you up whenever it comes time for references. That's what I'm trying to say. It's the name in and of itself isn't going to get you huge applause, isn't going to get you, because everyone's putting that stuff on their resume. Everyone's putting, oh, I did this, oh, I did that, oh, I did this. If you can't back it up, then it's just some words. It's just some words on a profile, a resume, or whatever. So basically, follow through with the things you say you're going to do, and actually do them. Make contributions that will showcase what you can do. Like I've said before, push yourself. Push yourself through with this, and make this something that that really showcases what you can do. That really shows that shows that you can step outside of your boundaries, and you can actually make a contribution where maybe you didn't think you could do it. And that right there, to me, is one of the biggest selling points, is when you can talk about something. When I go to interviews or to talk with clients or anything like that, those are the kind of things that I always push. And I've posted recently about this as well, that you have those projects or those things that you do that are your talking points. These are the things that you talk about. And I've had my fair share of those projects where whenever things come up, I always go back to these projects. And I always go back to these projects because these were the things that at the time I didn't know anything about, or I knew very little about. I knew enough to get in the door, but when it came right down to it, it was a lot about learning. It was a lot about digging in and figuring it out. And it wasn't something that I already had the knowledge. It's something that I didn't have the knowledge, and yet I still delivered on time. I still, you know, learned what I needed to learn and got to that point to where I could make the progress. And that's what's going to impress people. That's what's going to show people what you have, and that's what's going to eventually get you the job. Uh, on the space yesterday, there was talk about AI going through it, and I'm sure it does, and going through all these resumes because there's a lot of resumes out there, and so yeah, they're probably tasking this thing to look for certain key bullet points and all that. I still believe, and you know, there was so much back and forth. I didn't have a chance to jump in and say anything there, but I still believe that you making the effort, you pushing yourself out there, you doing something that not many others could do is what's going to get you in there. And there were other people who said it. That's why I didn't have to say it. And I definitely agree with that. There were others who said that a lot of these people, a lot of these hiring managers get very few actual contacts. They get a ton of resumes. They get just a flood of resumes coming in, but they get very few people who actually go to the effort to find out who the hiring manager is, going to the effort to getting getting to where you can actually contact this person, whether it be email. uh, uh, personally, I think anything shy of actually calling them on the phone is really just nothing, because it's easy to ignore email. It's easy to ignore a DM on LinkedIn or an X or anywhere else. Yeah, you can just push to the side. There's no problem with that. But it's really hard to ignore someone who's calling you on the phone. And so, you know, pick up that phone and actually make the call and actually speak to these people, because speaking is a whole lot different than reading an email. You can't really get a sense for that person through text, through email, through whatever. You know, go that extra mile and you know, be that person that showed up and that pushed and that said, look, I'm worth at least giving an interview to, and you might get your chance at getting an interview. And so I think that's one thing a lot of people don't do, is push that extra mile, is make themselves the candidate that these people need, because that's what's going to do it in the end. I guarantee it. That's what's going to do it in the end, because so few people are doing that, because it's just so much easier to hit the button, apply, 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 apply. And yeah, you know, that's all well and good, like I said. But in the market we're in now, there's a lot of people hitting that apply button. You know, these companies are getting a ton of applies. Um, Maybe take the effort. Yeah, I'm not saying don't apply, but maybe take the effort to follow up that apply with some actual physical contact, with actually reaching out to this person, talking to them, letting them hear your voice. You know, you can't it's hard to showcase passion through writing, through text sometimes. Yeah, you can. I'm not saying it can't be done. We all read books, we all read articles, we all read things, we go, wow, this person's really passionate. But you know, it's a lot easier when it comes out of a voice, when it comes, you know, because there's still, no matter how much we put the internet out there, no matter how much we have all of these disconnected ways of communicating to each other, that human touch is always going to sell you, is always going to be that thing that person remembers. Because do you really think they're going to remember, you know, the 30 or 40 passionate emails they got, or the one passionate person who called up, who you know, got through all of the blocks put in place to get to that person who's actually making the decision, who gets to get the interview and actually makes the contact with them? I guarantee you they're gonna remember that person who reached out and made the contact with them. So, you know, go that extra effort. If you say you're going to do something, do it. Don't put things out there. Don't say you're a part of something and then not really, and really the truth is you just happen to be there when it happened. You know, put the things that you put on your resume that you're trying to sell yourself on, make sure these are things that you got involved in, that you actually did progress, and that someone there will back you up, because you know, you made an effort, not just an effort, but you made a contribution. That's the kind of things that separate you know, people who talk about it and people who do it. And that's something that I've been posting about a lot, and I say it a lot. And you know, I get a little I wonder if people get tired of hearing it, but I don't think I think it's worth repeating over and over and over and over again. Action is so much more important than talk. Talk, and this is a phrase from, even a long time ago. Talk is cheap, and that's what it is. Talk. That's all it is. It's just talk. But without there being proof of action, it's just talk. So make yourself the action. Make yourself the person that that goes out there and gets this stuff from people and gets what they need, and is the person that gets that, gets in their face, and that they not gets in their face, but gets out there and gets in contact with them, and makes themselves rememberable. That's really what you need to be. You need to be the guy, the girl that um, puts yourself in front of them and makes yourself someone that they go, we really should talk to this person. He made the extra effort. She made the extra effort of actually picking up the phone and saying, hey, I think I'm really great for this job, and here's why. That's a big point too, because if you can't say here's why, if you just say, I think I would be really great for this job, okay, why? You should have that ready. If when you're coming at a job like that, you should have that ready. I think I'd be great for this job, and here's why. I've done this, I've done this, I've done this, verifiable things that you've done to take steps towards learning the things you need to learn. Like I've said before, when companies are hiring young devs, they shouldn't be expecting you to have a huge amount of experience. But how are they going to choose you from the hundreds of other people that are applying if you're doing the same thing everyone else is doing? Take that extra effort, figure out what that is for you. It doesn't have to be the same. It doesn't have to be open source. It could be, you could start your own project. Someone was posting just a couple of days ago about when's the last, it was, yeah, when was the last time that you went through a tutorial to learn something? And my reply was never. That's because I never did that. The whole reason I started programming is because I had ideas about writing applications. That's where the inspiration comes from. That's what caused me to try to get out there and learn what I needed to learn. That's how I've always learned. I didn't go through these tutorials, and I'm not saying tutorials are garbage. I'm not saying you shouldn't use them. If they work for you, they work for you. But I'm just saying, a lot of people nowadays are using tutorials. A lot of them are. So be the one who does something different. The That's why still 23 years later, I'm still doing this, because it started with passion. It started with something I really wanted to do. I really wanted to learn. And I wanted to, I really loved this thing, and I had all these great ideas and all this stuff. And so I was like, but how do I make those ideas become a reality? I had to do something about it. I had to go and I had to start reading up on, software. And back in those days, there wasn't the internet back then. I mean, and if there was, it was still very early versions. This, when I started, it was in days right before even AOL came out, right before ISPs were a normal thing. So how do you do that? You dig and you find, and you go for every little thing you can find. So there had to be passion. There had to be passion to do it. There had to be passion to keep going and keep pushing. I had to find books, and I had to find this, and I had to find that, and I had to really go to that extra level. And so nowadays, the information's out there, guys. It's so easy to find. Just go find it. I mean, if you've got the passion, just go find it. So many people have posted the same thing. Tutorials are great, but everyone's using these tutorials, and in the end, if you need a tutorial to kind of inspire you, then it's not going to really come through, because it's just going to be the same thing. You're going to be doing a paint by numbers. Find the passion, and your passion will come through. If you have the passion for doing good software, it'll come through, and you'll make it in this career for a very long time. If not, you'll probably end up being a manager, and I'm not saying anything wrong with a manager. Some people, that's what they want to do, but that's not what I wanted to do. For me, I wanted to be a software developer, and that's why 23 years later, I'm still a software developer. I've told people before, and I'm sure I could have very easily jumped into being a manager and probably be, sitting in meetings right now and bored out of my brain. I literally would be bored out of my brain. I've been in meetings before. I've been in companies where I've had to be in long meetings, and I just want to pass out and die, I've literally fallen asleep in meetings before. It's happened. Brandon, are you asleep? No, no, no. What? I couldn't do it. I guarantee you. There's no way. There's no way I could ever been a manager. No, but I love writing software too much. I enjoy writing software way too much to be a manager. Like I said, nothing against managers. We need them. We need them to sit through. We need them to talk to customers. We need them to organize things for us, to lay it out for us. I'm not trying to trash managers, but I could not be one. I'll just say that. The most I've ever considered myself becoming would be an architect, someone who helps other developers guide them, create the basis of the software for them. Really create ground level type stuff and that kind of thing. But yeah. I've rambled for long enough, I think. Um, Hopefully, a lot of you see this on the replay. Hopefully, it doesn't get too many bored. Yeah. Hopefully, some people in some other streams besides X saw this. So, you guys have fun. Hit me up if you have any questions. Um, if you want any advice on anything, on what to do, on how to do things, I'm always available. I always try to make myself available. So yeah, we'll talk to you guys later. And I'm going to go ahead and just end the